Good evening. I'm Tracy Byrne, sitting in for Jerry Willis. Well, another day. Do we have another deal? That's the rumbling out of D.C. regarding your tax rates. Now, reports today saying the White House is open to making changes to the tax bill to appease angry Democrats. But is the president now at the risk of losing GOP support? Congressman Jack Kingston is Republican from Georgia, and Congressman Scott Garrett is Republican from my home state of New Jersey and is my congressman, full disclosure there. Okay, let's start with what Paul Ryan said earlier today, and we have a little soundbite of him saying that this is not a second stimulus.
We're talking about $176 billion in a $14 trillion economy, so I do not believe you're going to have much of a stimulus effect.
Representative Kingston, though, isn't that the point? We're trying to stimulate the economy.
Well, we are. What we're trying to do is let people keep more of their own money so they'll invest and businesses will grow and jobs will be created. What I am concerned about, though, is if the door gets open too wide for little additions and little deal-making things, they may become deal breakers. I think as is, the framework which President Obama outlined to everybody earlier this week, was probably okay. But I worry what can happen over the weekend with the U.S. Senate.
Even because crazy things have happened over the weekend, sir. So we have earmarks potentially coming. We have none yet in the way it is written, but who knows, promises, kickbacks. We don't know what this thing could look like in its final form.
No, you don't. And that may be why Nancy Pelosi will probably use that line that she used with the health care bill, saying, we'll have to pass this bill before we realize what's in it. And, of course, we saw what happened with health care after we passed it. We found all sorts of things are in it. And now that may be coming through the Senate. One of the things Harry Reid was talking about is putting in Internet gambling into the bill to bring on some other people. It'll be, again, just like the health care bill where you had the Cornhuskers kickback, was it, in the Louisiana Purchase. All those things added to a bill that, in my opinion, from day one, really was not the best bill that we could have gotten. The Republicans will be in a stronger position come January, both in the House, certainly, and also in the Senate to get even a better position and also to get a more certainty for the economic markets.
But on November 2nd, Representative Kingston, we the people voted to stop the spending.
Yeah.
And are you worried then about what this is going to do? They say it's deficit neutral. It can't be at the end of the day.
Well, I am worried about that. I wish there was another component that was aimed at deficit reduction, maybe enacting some of the Debt Reduction Commission recommendations, or maybe making some promise or some progress toward deficit reduction, because this bill does dig the hole deeper for Social Security deficit, and we all need to be concerned about that. And yet, again, I think as originally described, the bill was okay. I would prefer, as I know Scott would, a permanent extension of the tax rates and certainly of the estate taxes. 2 years is not enough. It doesn't let businesses plan. I don't think the investments will come roaring back the way we want it to be. And so, there's a strong school of thought to say, you know what, we should have held out for more, and maybe we should just hold out for January, because the Democrats are in disarray right now. The moderates were the ones that were beat. What we have left are the hardcore liberals who would tax everybody to, at a 90% rate if they could. So I think that there's a school of thought on that. However, we all know Washington. It's like the basketball game in which the 2 minutes at the end of the clock are when the real game is played, and we're in that zone right now, if you will. So many of us don't want to see this thing fade, because you don't know what the territory really is going to be in January. Maybe there's an intervening event, a terrorist attack, something else. And so sometimes you got to grab the imperfect and work with it to perfect it down the road.
But Representative Kingston makes a good point. Should the GOP have held out? Because 2 years from now we're having the same argument. Right. And under the assumption that it does boost the economy even an iota, that's a tough sell to say, okay, we have to extend these rates two years, or ad infinitum for that matter.
Yeah, when this came through, and I was one of the first people to the microphone in conferences saying that, yes, we should hold out for more. On the economic front, look, we're looking for certainty in the economy right now. Economists have looked at this 2-year extension that we could be one thing almost guaranteed of, not a stimulative effect, and unemployment remaining hovering around 9%. Why is that? Because investors are going to say we're going to keep our money on the sidelines during this period of time because we don't know what the tax code is going to be after that. Second point is spending will go up. And Jack's absolutely right. We can do all sorts of tax or spending cuts in the next 2 years. But even if we do all the things that we anticipated we want to do, we'll only be putting ourselves back at the very beginning. In other words, if we cut $100 billion over the next year and a half, great. But we'll have increased spending in this bill by $120-some-odd billion if you look at the Social Security lost revenue and the
unemployment
UI, exactly, the UI fund, $55 billion.
So in its current form, do you vote for it?
In the current form, I would not be voting for it.
You do not? And how about
In
yourself?
the current form, I'm going to probably at this point reluctantly vote yes, but I want to emphasize the weekend factor. I want 72 hours.
You don't have to tell me. I end up working these weekends because of the weekend factor.
You know, that's one thing that we all agree on is put bills on the table for 72 hours so that we can all look in it. And if the good and the bad were traded and got real ugly, then I think
And if you could add and make it better, what would you do to it?
I would make the tax cuts permanent, and I would probably not extend unemployment insurance as long as it is. I would clearly offset that, and I would not dig the hole deeper on Social Security. That's very important to me. You've got to have some kind of deficit reduction progress in there, and right now it's not in there.
It's going to be an interesting weekend, gentlemen. Representative Jack Kingston and Representative Scott Garrett, thank you both for being here.
Good to be with you.
Good luck.
Thanks.